Hi, this is Chatterboxing. I'm going to talk about Luis Ortiz. He just parted ways with Golden Boy Promotions. Not really sure why, but he's now a free agent. Don't know the details of why he's done that. He obviously feels that it was the right thing to do. He wasn't the most high-profile heavyweight in the world. I remember he fought against Bryant Jennings. It's probably to date his most sort of high-profile fight. He is the man fighting for a mandatory position in an eliminator against Alexander Ustinov, and that fight was supposed to take place on the undercard of Canelo Alvarez and Liam Smith. So that would have been good exposure for him. It's unfortunate, really, that he didn't take that. I mean, I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing. I mean, obviously, the kind of contractual dispute meant that he didn't. But taking that aside, it's unfortunate because that would have been good exposure, and he would have then been mandatory challenger for Tyson Fury's, I think the IBF or WBA, I don't know. No IBF, Anthony Joshua, the WBA, I think. So, yeah, as well, I can't see people giving Luis Ortiz. He's not going to be a voluntary, is he? He's too dangerous. He doesn't bring enough money to the table. If you're Tyson Fury, you can fight Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua for X amount of money. Very dangerous fights, but you're going to earn a lot of money and you're going to get the same amount of credit. You fight Luis Ortiz, you're going to make much less money. It's just as dangerous, maybe more, maybe less, maybe the same, but there or thereabouts. And you get the. Well, would you get more crowd? It depends who you're speaking to, but it's kind of similar, isn't it? I mean, the point is, he's not going to get that much money out of the fight. So, he's prize fighting, and we're all obviously sick of hearing it, but it does come down to sort of high risk, low reward. That's what most of the people who've got any kind of power in the game try and do. So yeah, he needs to get into a mandatory position to get a title shot. I I personally very much like to see Luis Ortiz against Tyson Fury. I was hoping that he'd get that fight. I was hoping that he'd win and that he would become mandatory because it's a fight I would very much like to see. Um, yeah, I mean, if that does happen, then I'll do like a kind of breakdown of that later on. In terms of what he does now, I don't know really what his options are. I imagine it's more likely that he will stay in America because, I mean, he's not from there, but he's from close to there. There's quite a lot of Cuban people, quite a lot of Hispanic people. From what I've seen, he doesn't really speak English very well. He can say a few bits and pieces. He can probably understand some, but if he came to England, for example, I doubt he'd understand much. Probably hardly anything. He wouldn't really be able to say a lot. People are talking about, potentially an option would be for him to come over, base himself in the UK. I'm not really sure that would be the best move for him. Possibly, but he'd need to be very well marketed, and he'd need to really. I don't know. I think, to be honest, America's a more obvious option. Firstly, because he's already there, and secondly, if you look at the history of American boxing, they have a tradition of the best fighters from around the world going there. It was always a big stage, a big place to make money. So whether it was Roberto Duran, Julio Cesar Chavez, um, Manny Pacquiao, Gennady Golovkin, Lennox Lewis, Guillermo Rigondeaux, etc., etc., you always have top fighters from around the world who don't come from places like Britain, where there is a big model. Lennox Lewis is obviously an exception, Amir Khan as well, but Lennox Lewis especially because Amir Khan as well, most of the big fights at that time in their weight division were in America. So it kind of depends. But if you're from the Philippines or from Mexico or uh, Panama or wherever, probably you can make a lot more money and be on a bigger stage in the US. So that's why that's happened in the past, I assume, and it has that tradition. So it just seems a more logical place for, a foreign fighter to base himself. Now, I find it's unfortunate really that he doesn't really have the sort of support. He doesn't have the hype around him. He's a very exciting fighter. He's heavyweight as well. Um, yeah, I think, and there aren't really. Yeah, okay, there's like your man, what's he called? Perez, the other Cuban. But really, you don't generally have that many Hispanic heavyweights. So you think in the right hands, he could become very big. So I would like to see that. I think he deserves it in terms of his skill and his style. Big puncher as well. So that's it in America. If he did come over to Britain, the problem with him in Britain, first I said the language, and the kind of, I would say lack of personality, but because of if you compare him to like Shannon Briggs came over, and he's obviously a very engaging personality. He's American, so that's his, he speaks English, so he can show you his personality. Someone like Luis Ortiz, he come over and he may well be a very interesting bloke, great laugh, good bloke to have a pint with, I don't know if he drinks, but you know what I mean. But you're not really going to know that if all he can really say is good fight. I want to make big fights. You know what I mean? It's not really that marketable. I don't know how quick he would maybe sort of pick it up. I don't know. He seems old as well. I mean, his box rec says he's like 37. He doesn't look 37 to me. Um, some people look older than they are. I suppose that's true. I mean, I'm 18. Most people think I look 21. So, it does happen. But I can't really see him having that much success over here in terms of popularity. People would like to see him fight almost as a kind of, novelty. Like when someone comes over, like for example, Rigondeaux fought Jazza Dickens recently, and people were interested in it. The problem is though with the UK, I think people need to understand the reason why the UK is so big right now in terms of the big fights, people making money, big interest on TV in the arenas, etc. You've got to give a lot of credit to Eddie Hearn and his model and the way he's done it. And the way he has done it, he's kind of done it in a like the sort of football style. And by that, I mean for the benefit of people who don't really understand what that means, is that football's the biggest sport here in England, and you've got pretty much every city. Well, every city has quite a few teams. Not every city. You've got some cities that have quite a few teams. Every town, every small city has a team, and people are very tribal, and they get behind their people and they travel with them. That's why you see like Ricky Hatton, Carl Frampton. Carl Frampton's Irish, but it's the same kind of style. We have that style of people travelling to support because you do it with a team. Now they're starting to do it with the fighters. So he's got that kind of atmosphere where you've got a fighter from, let's say, Liverpool, and you've got everyone in there, like, almost like a football match. Everybody's there, kind of supporting the local lad, and they're really getting into, really passionate about it. And that's how he's really managed to market it as well as he has done. So possibly Shannon Briggs could be an exception because he's just a real kind of man of the people, and he goes everywhere, and everybody loves him. He's, meeting the people. He's out, goes to Scotland wearing a kilt. He'll go up and he'll be like, singing with the people. So everybody likes him. Luis Ortiz isn't going to be doing that, is he? Let's be honest. So the chances are he's not going to have that kind of the Eddie Hearn style support base that a lot of the UK fighters have. It could go to Frank Warren, who was talking about getting Rigondeaux. I think he's got Alexander Ustinov, but Frank Warren really these days, he doesn't really have the power that Eddie Hearn does. And you see his shows and they're generally smaller, they're not as well marketed or promoted, really, should I say. I mean, the Fury Klitschko one wasn't selling that many tickets. He was kind of taking the piss a bit apparently with the prices, not really that much exposure. And I don't really think that when you talk about like coming to the UK and it's big, really, to me that means right now with Eddie Hearn. That's like if you especially if you're foreign. So I can't really see that as a good option. So really, America would be the obvious option. So hopefully, to me, he signs with Al Heyman because Al Heyman obviously has a lot of power. He's got Deontay Wilder. He seems to have most of the top American heavyweights. And also, just in terms of the exposure, we saw the other day, PBC, Errol Spence, Leonard Bundle, was like 6 million people. I mean, that's decent. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's good. That's a good number. So you could, and the Thurman Porter was 3 million. So you can see that the PBC is starting to grow, and it's starting to become more successful. Especially those two fights, great fights, great for your kind of casual fans. They see this. They saw the Thurman Porter, Santa Cruz, Frampton as well. So you're talking like, in a relatively short space of time, you had three very entertaining fights. So they're building up an audience. So yeah, for me that would be the obvious place for him to go. What I hope doesn't happen is he does, like for example, like Rigondeaux signed with Rock Nation, presumably because he got a big signing on fee. Now, if that's what he wanted to do, fair play to him. It's not for me to tell him how to run his affairs. But it's kind of disappointing from a boxing fan's perspective because he's just got that money, and what has he really done since then? I know he's sort of on Twitter saying he wants all the big fights, but doesn't seem to be doing much else. You know, and like I've said in the other another video that yeah, Carl Frampton, he's saying this, that, and the other. Make him an offer then. Rock Nation seems to me don't really make that much happen. Yeah, you got this Andre Ward, Kovalev thing. We'll see what happens with that. But if what's happened with Rigondeaux, there are obviously other factors involved as well. But personally, I don't have that much confidence in them to really do that well for Luis Ortiz, much less than I have in Al Heyman. So for me, I would like to see him sign with Al Heyman. I'd like to see him get more exposure, and I'd like to really see him get in the mix. I think he's potentially one of the best, and I'd like to see him fight all Fury, Wilder, Joshua, all these characters. So yeah, well, that's all I've got for today. Thanks for listening. See you next time.